Hey, happy Veterans Day, everyone. This is Murph from Tough as Nails. It's an honor to speak to you today on Veterans Day. When I was asked to speak, I'm like, what can I talk about that you haven't already heard? So what I thought I would do is just kind of talk to you a little bit about some of the mentors that happen to be veterans that impacted my life. So I'll really start when I was young. So my dad is a huge John Wayne fan. I think I've seen every John Wayne movie in existence. So I think I was about 8 years old, and one day my dad is watching a movie called The Green Berets, and it caught my attention from the very beginning. I sat down with my dad and watched the whole show. I had questions about the show, like why did they do that, or what was happening here? Well, it really created an interest in the military for me, so much so that like the little kids playing Army, all my friends, we would get together and go to the local orange groves that by our house in California. We'd play Army, we would dig trenches, we would throw dirt clods at each other, and those are our grenades, so to speak. My mom would take me to the surplus store because that's where I'd want to spend my allowance, buying all kinds of Army gear, canteens, the web belts, the helmets, whatever kind of Army gear that I can find that our friends can go out and play with. One day I'm going through some pictures and I come across some photos and I'm like, Mom, who is this photo of? And she's like, that's your dad. I'm like, so my dad, it was in Vietnam. And she's like, yeah. And she showed me some more photos. So I was captivated because the heroes that I was watching on TV are the documentaries about Vietnam. One of the heroes was living in my house. That was my dad. I really looked up to my dad, and even more after that, because the guys that I idolized on TV, John Wayne, the actors that play these, heroes on TV or watching the documentaries, my father was one of them. He took some time and shared some of his medals with me, showed me his dog tags. And I think for the first time in my life, I realized that maybe the military is something I wanted to do. So he had a huge impact on my life. Kind of fast forward to high school. I was a newspaper delivery boy as a eighth grader and a freshman. I used to deliver newspapers on my bike, and one of my customers was Mr. Brummett. Mr. Brummett was an elderly man who flew a Marine Corps flag from his front porch. One day, Mr. Brummett pulled me aside and just talked to me about his experience, why he felt the military was good for a young man. Then he went on to tell me some more interesting things, and it turns out Mr. Brummett was a war hero. Mr. Brummett served in the island hopping campaigns. He was in Guadalcanal. He made the initial landing on Iwo Jima. It was just so motivating and so interesting to hear the stories that he shared with me, and really cultivated an interest in the Marine Corps, because before I just never really focused on a certain branch. But after talking to Mr. Brummett, I'm like, wow, the Marine Corps is something that I'm really definitely interested in. Shortly thereafter that, I met Coach John Koontz. Coach Koontz was a big man, 6'4", 240 pounds, big Cherokee Indian who happened to be a former Marine. Mr. Koontz was the wrestling coach. He also was my track and field coach. I do the shot and put discus, and he was a defensive coach for the football team. Coach Koontz would open up the weight room at 5 o'clock in the morning during the school day. So we would get to school about 5:15 to 5:30, and we would lift weights before class. If Coach Koontz saw that you weren't there, he would call you. So Coach Koontz taught me a lot about accountability. He also taught me a lot that if you're going to say that you're going to be somewhere, you better be there. Coach Koontz mentored me a lot. I was a shy high school kid. He talked to me a lot just about confidence, how the Marine Corps can gain that confidence. So up to that point in my life, I had 3 veterans that really mentored me: my dad, Mr. Brummett, and Coach Koontz. So my senior year of high school, my friend Vernon turned around to me right before lunch and said, "What are you doing after school today?" I really had no plans. So he said, "Why don't you go talk to the Marine Corps recruiter with me?" So that was on a Monday. I talked to the Marine Corps recruiter. I went home that night and told my parents, like, I think I'm going to join the Marine Corps. They weren't really surprised, I think, because I think they kind of saw me heading in that direction. So that Tuesday, my parents met with the Marine Corps recruiter because I was 17 at the time. And on Wednesday, they signed the document allowing me to go up and get my physical done at MEPS. And that Friday, I joined the Marine Corps for 6 years, my initial enlistment. Shortly after I graduated high school, I shipped to boot camp, went to boot camp, went to my military occupational specialty school down in Millington, Tennessee, and then got to my first duty station where I met my first Marine Corps mentor, Jared Thompson. So Jared only had about 6 years on me in the Marine Corps, but he was a veteran from combat, from some previous, he was former infantry, but he laterally moved into the aviation field where he first talked to me about leadership and, be quick to listen, slow to respond. Really taught me a lot about how to be a Marine when it comes to your daily tasks, taking care of your Marines and things of that nature. And then with each promotion, I think you inherently find mentors. You reach out to them. You see people that you want to learn from. So not only do you sometimes get assigned a mentor, but sometimes you seek out your own. You see that senior person, that senior Marine that I wanted to be like. So I would pick their brain, like, what were some of the things that made you successful? And that continued on. When I retired from the Marine Corps, the first job I worked at was Lowe's. I talked to Bernard. Bernard was a retired Air Force. Bernard retired probably about 10 years before I did, but he was a wealth of knowledge because as a new retiree, you think you have it together, then you have to go do stuff with the VA, or maybe you're trying to settle a claim, or maybe you just have questions in general about retiring. And so Bernard was a good mentor for me. So even though he was in a different branch of service, he's still a veteran. And I think that's what's important for us as veterans, is that it doesn't matter what branch you served in, we all served. And we could all rely upon each other to do those things, to help each other out. So earlier this year, I had the opportunity to be on a show called Tough as Nails, which many of you saw. It was a great opportunity to represent the veteran community. So I'm Murph, the character Murph, if you will. Murph is the nickname I've had since I've been little. So when the show asked me, what would you like to be referred to? Murph was an automatic. So the Murph that you see on the show is made up of several of those mentors. A little bit of Murph comes from my dad. A little bit of Murph is made up from Mr. Brummett or Coach Koontz or Jared Thompson. So those mentors that I have growing up is who made me who I am today. So just take a second and just think about some of the mentors that you had, and just think about how they influenced you. And then think about how many people you've mentored. And I'm willing to bet that there are far more people that you've mentored than you realized. Sometimes just a quick conversation can mean the world to somebody. You've mentored so many people that I can't even imagine the impact that you've had on their lives. But I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you on this Veterans Day. Continue to mentor. The veteran community can continue to serve. You've served your country. You serve your communities now. But thank you for everything you do, and happy Veterans Day.